Some call this age, our age, the Anthropocene. It means that in this age, human activity is exerting the dominant influence on Earth. Humans have changed everything from the carbon cycle to the water cycle and have completely disrupted the Earth's systems and functions. We have transformed every ecological niche on Earth, and in most cases, not for the better. No one can deny that humans have had an outsized role in the terraforming, manufacturing, standardizing, and domination of the world. This fact, that humans have had the ability to transform and leverage so much of the environment for our uses, has led us to have a subtle but pernicious understanding of ourselves. That we are separate from nature somehow, like demi-gods on Earth with the power to transcend our limits, exceeding beyond any other creature. But, as Lewis Mumford wrote, man is nevertheless no god. Although we fly in airplanes and shit in toilets and live in apartments in massive, ungodly cities that our ancestors could scarcely dream of, we are, in fact, animals. This shouldn't be a degrading statement, but in our modern world of complete dislocation from the ecosystems which sustain our existence, the idea that we're creatures, products of evolution and collaboration with an environment, like anything else, seems to dethrone us from our sense of perceived superiority. We are an ecological creature, permanently embedded, whether we like it or not. This story we have of our separateness from nature is one of the most powerful stories of our time. So powerful that most people don't even know that it's a story. The great chain of being is simply self-evident, and it's self-evident that we're at the top, closer to gods and angels than rats and hyenas. In actuality, it's the opposite, and it's important for us to understand why that is and what that means for us. If we have an entire age of the planet being referred to as the Anthropocene, it might follow that we need to take stock of what exactly that means. What is this anthropos? Philosophers, psychologists, sociologists, and anthropologists have been tinkering with and trying to understand the same question for thousands of years. Who are we, and why do we do what we do? Perhaps, in order for us to understand anything at all about this world dominated by humans, we need to start by trying again and again and again to understand ourselves. So, what is the human animal? The tale of human evolution is long and convoluted, and no one actually knows what happened, but we know for certain that we are omnivorous, bipedal mammals that evolved from apes. We know that we evolved in the Horn of Africa, beginning as plant and insect-eating chimp-like hominids. The time period in the mainstream view begins around 3.5 million years ago. While other hominids came before, Australopithecus afarensis is pointed to as a deviation from our bonobo and chimp ancestors, in that these were the first hominids to walk upright. Though the timeline is a bit complicated, archaeologists have found that around 3 million years ago, we have evidence of the first use of tools, as well as the first signs of a transference of knowledge.
What changes is that 3.5 million years ago, one of them realized that if they picked up a rock that had the right shape and was made out of the right material, and they struck it with another rock, they could break off in less than a second. It took them millions of years to figure it out, but less than a second to make this tool.
It seems that Australopithecus taught each other how to create and use these tools through mimicry, a behavior that is incredibly important in the human story. This early transference of knowledge of how to make and use tools is known as the birth of culture, and as you'll see, culture and tools are inextricably linked in the human story. What would compel a species to transform a survival strategy that worked for them for millions of years to adopt an entirely new strategy based around tools? The evidence suggests that the main use of these tools was for butchering animals. Tools would have given us the ability to slice open animals, break open bones, and access more nutrients from the environment.
We built the human body literally on the backs of technology that did nothing but allow us to access more nutrients while our bodies work less hard.
An important point to understand is that through tools, these early hominins were no longer limited by their biology. Every species is born with the inherent qualities that allow it to live in their environments, specific adaptations such as fur, claws, teeth, and wings. Hominins don't have fangs, claws, or any other adaptations which make consuming animals easy. These early hominins were not able to adapt to this new food source until we began making tools.
As soon as they create this tool, they don't need to be biologically equipped for it anymore. They have everything they need in this tool. And they can run in there, hack off huge pieces of meat, bring it back to safety wherever their camp is, share it with the elderly and the young and people that are sick.
Compared to Australopithecus, we know with far more certainty that Homo habilis used tools extensively. Homo habilis, according to this timeline, would eventually be replaced by Homo erectus, at which point in our evolutionary history we became a predator, rather than merely a scavenger and a gatherer. The difference in brain size between Homo habilis and Homo erectus is incredibly stark. It is believed that during this long period of evolution, our early mimesis, the habit of mimicking other creatures and each other, led to a new and elegant survival strategy, one built around complex social dynamics and tools. What is important to understand is that in order to be a predator, particularly one without claws and fangs, Homo erectus was completely reliant on social cohesion and tools to hunt prey. Creating weapons, coordinating hunts, and tracking animals would have taken an immense amount of intelligence and cooperation. Though we know that there was clearly an increase in Homo erectus's capabilities relative to Homo habilis, the reason for this tremendous brain growth remains a mystery to paleoanthropologists, but there are many theories about how this change occurred. We have the aquatic ape theory, which posits some compelling arguments around a marine diet leading to brain growth, and the usefulness of language in aquatic environments. We have the expensive tissue hypothesis, which suggests that when Homo erectus started cooking our food some 700,000 years ago, we freed up energy that was being used in our gut to digest food that could then be used to build our big brains.
Our guts were allowed to shrink because we began to do the work of the guts outside of our bodies before we even ingested our food.
Other theories include the stoned ape theory that early humans started consuming psychedelic mushrooms, bringing about consciousness, abstract thinking, and symbolic language. So whether it was from imitation, early ritual from psychedelic use, cooking meat, or the advent of abstract language, our brains grew at an incomprehensibly rapid pace, particularly our frontal lobes. The growth of the frontal lobe is believed to coincide with the development of language, one of the key features that distinguishes humanity from the rest of the living community. Language forever changed our cognitive processes, transforming the very way we think, interact, and interface with the world. The frontal lobe is also the center of the brain which houses our emotions. Combined with language and mimesis, our social bonds deepen through empathy. It's most likely that a combination of each of these factors contributed to our development. We began thinking symbolically and abstractly, coordinating hunts, projecting into the future, and identifying and cataloging information from our environment. The skills of tracking, trapping, hunting, and the expansion of our botanical knowledge would be developed and passed down through the generations through storytelling and education, the foundations of culture. We created rituals and music and started to understand the world not only materially, but also symbolically. Our ability to empathize led to deep social bonds. It is around this time that experts believe we developed consciousness. We started building structures to live in. We created clothes, allowing us to move to colder climates. We developed complex societies using language, storytelling, metaphor, and myth. We created monoliths. We made art. We engaged with a spiritual world, creating religions and communing with gods. We became aware of our mortality. we buried our dead. We became human. Culture, tools, and technology, language, religion, and cooperation are some of the most distinctly human qualities we have. But what is often overlooked is our keen conscious awareness of the fact that we are destined to die. This feature of memento mori in the human psyche is a powerful and often hidden force governing our behavior. As far as we know, we are the only creature who is as aware as we are that we are destined to die. These qualities and their complex relationship with each other is what allowed human beings over the past 100,000 years to spread to every continent on Earth and occupy every ecological niche imaginable. But what is it about these qualities that has led us to the world we live in today? One point to elaborate on is that our existence is dependent upon tools, as well as our ability to alter environments for our survival. We learn how to adapt our minds to allow us to live in and integrate ourselves into any environment that we encounter. This is an incredible feat, which would have required not only dexterity, cleverness, and creativity, but also an immense amount of social collaboration, which is why culture is such an important part of being a human. We make meaning as part of a greater group, consciously or not. Without language and abstract mythic thinking, this level of complexity in our culture would not be possible. And without tools, we would never be able to persist to even have culture at all.
Culture is just what humans do. All humans make culture. It's how we learn, it's how we live, it's how we teach our children, it's what we eat, it's how we worship. All of that makes a culture. It's like the total life way. And we are storytelling creatures. We are also what they call hypersocial, because we really need each other.
Culture can be understood as the stories that a people tell themselves about who they are, where they came from, and where they are going. Humans are inherently and essentially cultural, which means that it is impossible for us to escape our need to mythologize, narrativize, and ultimately tell stories. It is not possible to be a human being and not tell yourself a story about how to be in the world. Even in our secularizing, rational, scientific society, we are nevertheless telling ourselves mythic stories about who we are and where we are going. It is inextricable from the human condition. Although scientists agree that around 60,000 years ago, man became modern, it's fair to say that a lot of evolution of culture and technology has taken place since then. We developed agriculture, complex civilization, scientific management, global commerce, and so many other behaviors that make our time distinct from our prehistoric ancestors. While at one time, not long ago at all, the Earth was populated only by humans and tribal bands of a few hundred or less, all with distinct rituals, customs, languages, and cultures. Now, nearly all humans live in a global, industrial civilization. Though it took thousands of years, everyone has ultimately been conquered by one kind of culture.
You know, there's this one pattern of human culture, and that's called civilization. That's the one where the destruction begins. It's not humanity. It's not human nature. So I just want to be really clear that people get that. It's not, oh, this sort of vague greed. People have done this terrible thing, and it's because we somehow are broken. No, that's not it. We were alive on this planet 2.5 million years. We didn't destroy the place.
The vast diversity of human societies shows that there is an incredible range of human behavior, dictated by culture. This culture is then reinforced by the technology created within it, which is then reinforced by the culture, and on again. Today, with nearly all people being part of one culture, a dominant, consumer-based, scientific global culture, we're starting to become aware that the story this culture tells itself leads to atomization, poisoned rivers, polluted landscapes, poor people, and perilous futures. The story of this culture leads to technology that turns us into products and puts us at risk of annihilating ourselves.
You have a new negotiating partner right now. It's called nature. And like it or not, you're going to get the short straw when it comes down to it. Feel free to assume that we'll always have enough water, we'll always have enough food, there'll always be enough arable land that we can farm with relentless impunity. We either recognize that as a recipe for doom, or we begrudgingly acknowledge it.
In spite of our intelligence, and in large part because of our intelligence, we have terraformed the planet, creating a civilization so total, one we are so entrenched and entangled within, that we may not escape the negative consequences that are inherent in its design. It should be apparent now that human culture, shaped by our natural consciousness and technology making, is one of the most powerful planetary forces on Earth. What do we do with this animal that has such power and potential to alter the Earth with our unique form of consciousness? How do we temper such potential for breaking limits and dominating environments? We are routinely told that the cause of our problems is human nature itself. We are told that humans are inherently greedy, selfish, exploitative, and self-servingly individualistic. But looking at the inherent qualities of humanity, these descriptions of human nature seem to be more in line with a particular kind of culture, rather than human nature itself. The qualities we have as an animal are not inherently destructive. It's how we choose to use them. Could it be that the problems we face are the result of a self-reinforcing, technological, cultural trap? The truth is, we've been struggling to understand ourselves for a very, very long time. And through our ignorance, we've killed and tortured each other and have created a society that is careening towards its own destruction. But not all human cultures have behaved this way, and we ultimately get to decide what kind of culture we nourish and encourage. We get to decide if these inherent qualities are used against us or are used to our benefit in creating a resilient, sustainable species.
We are mythological, narratizing creatures. We just need a better story. And this sounds corny, it's like some fucking Woodstock remnant. They say, you know, we're all human beings. We have more in common than we are different. And humans are one big family. They call it a common humanity prime, which has the benefit of being true, by the way. And so when people say these days, you know, that's Pollyanna, that's Mary Poppins, you guys are granola bar, you know, Birkenstock clad, bong sucking hippies, you know, get out of your Volvo and get a job, because what you're proposing is just not even natural. Yes, but it is quite natural. The trick is, how do we get humans to accept the fact that we're all in this together? We just get, or need to rather, stimulate our pro-social, uber-cooperative tendencies by broadening the scope of who we consider to be part of our world.
If we don't understand ourselves and how our culture and technology creating is a natural feature of our being, and therefore a natural feature of the earth itself, we'll never learn to utilize these qualities for good. If we believe that we are closer to gods than to the creatures we share this earth with, that we are separate and higher, we cannot hope to be in right relationship with the rest of the living community. The myth of our separateness from nature denies that we come from and are inherently dependent upon nature. This modern idea that we can evade death or evade biology is a product of the belief of our separateness. Nevertheless, we are mortal creatures, destined to die and be consumed by the earth, recycled and reconstituted again and again like every other living thing is. Though we are unique and seemingly special in so many ways, death is the equalizer. Death is the inescapable truth that in spite of our achievements, in spite of our strivings and our beliefs that we are more powerful than the rest of the living community, we are destined to die, just like all beings gifted with life. Again, we are a creature embedded in the world and the cycles of life and death, And this connection with the earth shouldn't degrade us. It should remind us that we are home. So what is the human animal? We are a tool-making, culture-making, language-using, religious and death-conscious creature. These qualities combine to become one of the most powerful planetary forces on Earth, for good or for evil.
Thank you so much for your attention. If you enjoyed the ideas in this video, we think you'll also enjoy the rest of our work, which includes over 4 years of podcasts, full-length interviews with experts like you've seen in this video, written essays, and more, all of which can be found on our Substack, deathinthegarden.substack.com. Paid subscribers get our videos 2 weeks early and without ads, get access to behind-the-scenes, scripts, full essays, and full podcasts. We also have a regular newsletter where we discuss current events and give creative updates. If you'd like to support our work, join us on Substack, and please remember to like, subscribe, comment, and share. Thank you.
That was great.